we stopped yesterday, the entry of John MacArthur, that's where we stopped. Should continue. So our story has stopped in a very important stage with an introduction of a great teacher, John MacArthur. Great teachers yaru illu John MacArthur great teacher anta ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ I remember probably John MacArthur could be related to two great teachers we find in our mythology. One was Vasishtha. He was a great teacher. You go to the story. I will not tell all the story. Kaushika Raja was there and how he became. He was a very good teacher because he taught his disciple the way to become greater than him. In fact, how to defeat Vasishtha was told by Vasishtha to his disciple. Kaushika, who later became Vishwamitra and all that stuff. Time and story. One more great teacher I can say was Drona. Drona is often mistaken because of the Eklavya episode that he is not a good teacher. But actually he was a very, very good teacher. For he took that guy, Drishtadyumna, as his disciple. Drishtadyumna was born to kill Drona, thanks to Drupada. All that story you know. So, MacArthur also was such a great teacher because he did not fear his students moving ahead of him. He actually encouraged it. Not many teachers will do this. They would not want their students to go beyond their reach. They always want their students to remain. Teachers love taking moral high grounds. You know that the very fact that I am standing here in position 9, it's not a physical height that teachers want to take. They want to take a moral high ground. No, I am a little bit morally superior than you. Whatever I say here, you should take it like that. That will be inscribed in the minds of Indian students from a very young age. And however we try in the later stage, it is very difficult for us to get rid of that mindset from students. I have failed miserably. That kind of barrier, even students think that should exist between teachers and students. Teachers somehow also feel that that kind of barrier should exist, good or bad. If we have to study MacArthur and what his disciples did from then onwards, we should fully understand the way the US education system worked in those days and is still working. Without understanding that properly, we can't understand why that thing happened only in MIT at that particular period of time. I am telling you the story of a decade, starting from 1962 or 63 to next decade. So in this 10 years, in MIT and in Stanford, something happened, which we are going to see now. Why did it happen only in MIT and in Stanford and nowhere else we have to study? Otherwise it will simply become a story. one line in your book. Of all the things that we copy from the Western world, I think it would be better if we copy their education system, the way they work. I feel there are three things which you have to admit. After seeing and after being in the education system nearly for a decade now, I am making this observation. One is a flow of funds. In the US, top universities will never have a problem of getting funds from government as well as private people the public will be ready to provide the funds. In fact, the project MAC which we are discussing now, which was started by John McCarthy in 1960, in those days got a funding of a tune of nearly $3 million in 1960 to do this project. Even today, if you see, they easily get $10 million, $25 million for their projects. Any professor in this university will have funds ranging up to $30, $50 million. Funds is the first thing. I think India should think of some ways of making funds available in institutes. Second thing is autonomy. Autonomy, I am not speaking with respect to what we are doing right now in colleges like ours. We have a half-baked idea of autonomy, but I am very hopeful. I may sound a bit disillusioned here and there because of the experience in these 4 years of getting the autonomy. Our original ideas of autonomy and what would happen never took place. We seem to follow the same rote learning kind of thing, but actual innovation has not happened. But I am hopeful. Maybe it will take time because we suddenly moved from a university-based system to autonomous system. The students are unable to grasp that point correctly. What is autonomy? What can they do? What can't they do? And the authorities also somehow are reluctant to break all these traditional barriers which existed. I think it will take time, probably 10 years, 15 years from now. Probably if you come back, you may see that there is some changes happening in the system. Because what they started in US, the basic idea of autonomy and all came in the early 1900s. And the system consolidated only after the Second World War. So they took 50 years for consolidation of the autonomous system. And we can't judge on how we are working in 3-4 years of our autonomy. I think we have to give some time. I am hopeful that it will work. As the new students come in with new thoughts and with the open mindset, we all have come with a kind of mindset where we were made to prepare for examination for a long period of time. Our whole education system is based on examination. Right from the kindergarten, especially in cities like Bangalore, I see that it's examination oriented. The only thing students do day in and day out is prepare for examination. And when there is a board examination, the entire household is in some kind of section 144. Strict section 144 in the houses. There is a board exam, somebody is studying, and in small towns if you go, the entire town will observe such ones. Small towns. In Bangalore nobody cares, but in small towns, in fact in my town, the SSLC examination means from March for the entire town is some kind of serious. The moment the result is announced, whoever gets the first place is celebrated as a hero. The whole city the town would rejoice. Our whole system is like that. Now I think the new generation of students will come into our campus in next 5-7 years because there are talks of examinations, board examinations being waived off for 10th standard and all that. They will come with a newer mindset. They will not carry the burden which we carry. For example, we had to, I don't know about you, but when I was in my school, I was the first batch. Somehow I was always the first batch doing something. My seniors had to study for their board exams the syllabus of 8th, 9th and 10th. All the three. And the system changed with our batch. So from our batch we had to study only the 10th standard things. And in the PUC when we entered again one more change. Our seniors had to study +1 and +2 for their +2 exams. For us, they made only plus 2. So all of us have come only plus 2. Now they have introduced trimesters and other things. So you study for 3 months, write exam, forget it. Next 3 months, write the exam, forget it. They are coming with a newer mindset, so probably they will adjust better to this autonomous system. They will know how to, for example, in engineering, I belong to the first batch of VT. Our seniors had a different mindset for engineering. When I joined back as a faculty here, when I went to supervising the examination for the first time, there were people who were writing their exams who joined engineering the year I was born. They had full carry. So they would do engineering for 12, 13 years. Staying up in hostel. So hostel was a den for them. And if we could find some place, we would be given rooms. The entire hostel was filled by guys who were staying there for 10 years, 12 years and all. So you ask the old people in the hostel, they will tell you. That system changed with us. With us the system solely, for example, when I came, the final year students meant that they were final year. If you look at them movie, ದೊಡ್ಡ ಗಂಡಸರ ತರ ಇರೋಲ್ಲ 10-15 ವರ್ಷ ಓದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಫೈನಲ್ ಇಯರ್ they would enter final year. Now if you see all you are just looking like kids, final year students. Notorious attitude which they had, it's not there. VTU softened the students because they didn't give full carry. Bangalore University had this full carry system when people could carry all the subjects and still stay happy. VTU caused the revolution silently. So therefore you don't see such kind of crowd now. And effectively that stopped all these student protests and other things. They did it very cleverly. So, okay, I was telling all this because the American universities follow the system of autonomy, and we should also bring certain more changes are required in the Indian system. For example, even today, we are having autonomy, but still we have some problems. Some problems in the sense which is self-imposed problems. They are not problems. We have imposed it on ourselves. For example, should every subject have a SE? We actually should decide. But we, without wanting to deviate from the established path, we say, let every subject have SE. That kills the pleasure of few subjects. Few subjects, you should have the pleasure of studying them on your own, not writing SE. The moment you have SE, the whole subject takes a new form. Question bank, how many questions? 40 questions, too much. 30, too much. 20 questions, question bank should be given. And the same 20 questions should come in the exam, then everybody is happy. So this kind of system is cultivated mainly because of this. I firmly feel the moment you get rid of SE, both the teachers and the students will start learning. The moment you have examinations, the teacher will say, okay, I am saying the most important thing now, please mark students, double star, very, very important. This happens with teachers. Students also focus on such things. Learning is a casualty. US authorities understood this very early, and they have introduced this very flexible system of education, where each student can learn his or her own way. We also have a system, but what I am saying is we need some fine-tuning here also. That was there in my team that time. The third thing I should accept, very honestly, that the quality of teachers matters. If you have good quality of teachers, simply if you build an institution, put some money over there and make a curriculum, nothing will work. You need people who can deliver it wholeheartedly. And in US, there is a tradition that the best of guys will come to teaching profession. If he is the best, then he has to come back to the teaching profession. There is no other place to go. Unfortunately, here we don't have that practice. I mean, we get all kinds of people, apart from people who are interested genuinely in teaching. If you don't have good teachers, you can't expect the system to exist as it was there in those times. I am telling this very honestly, including myself. I am not making myself apart and saying that there are no good teachers. I am also not a good teacher. So, we need good teachers. because there was this very curious combination of things that in MIT at that time, under the leadership of McCarthy, a bunch of guys came out whom we today call as hackers. Before I say what is hacker and all, I should define what is hack and then go. What is hacking? There is a hacker's manifesto. I hope you have read it. If you have not read it, you should read it. I have given all the material in a DVD. I hope it is given to everyone. Everybody has a copy of the DVD. It has all these things. What is hack? Hack, according to the Hacker Dictionary, is defined like this. Any solution which works, it should work, but it's not sufficient to qualify itself as a hack. It should be a clever solution. There is a qualifier for a solution to become a hack. A working solution which is a clever solution to the problem will qualify itself to be a hack. There is one more addition which people have given. If you say that there is this problem and it is considered to be the most useless problem in the world, then its hack value increases. This is one of the notion. I was telling yesterday that most of the background for this issue derived from mathematics. Why should you solve problem? You should not ask. If there is a practical application of problem, then it is not considered to be worth of solving, because somebody else will solve it. To be very frank, somebody else in the sense, some company, some organization which is cash rich will spend its resources to solve the problem if there is a usefulness in it. So hackers traditionally should not worry about problems which has some value. If it has value, if there is some use, it is not a hacker's job to solve. If something is useless, then we should be increasingly obsessed with it. That's a very peculiar nature of hack, and that is how most of the things happen in computers. If there was useful thing to be done, the company would come and do it, namely the IBM. Uninteresting things which were complex, hackers took it upon themselves to do it. That's what happened. So hacking is anything. We need not limit the definition of hackers. It is traditionally not limited to programming. Any clever solution to the problem is considered to be a hack. And hackers generally have 2-3 obsessions, which I will be talking later. All are useless in the traditional sense. But for hackers, they derive some kind of pleasure in doing it. Is it a very unique phenomena that only few guys come and do hacking? There are several myths about hackers. I'll just comment few of popular myths which people have about hackers and then. One popular myth about hackers is that I am not at all talking about black hat, white hat, hacker, cracker and all this childish stuff. I hope by this time all of you know, and I am not even going to speak about all those rubbish things. One popular myth about hackers, which is glorified in the cinema and other things, is that hacker is the guy who will sit and steal your password. This myth is there about hacker means something to do with password. Password breakers or passwords, they will steal your password kind of thing. Nothing can be more true or false than this. See, just think, what is the basic playground of hackers? Computers. More specifically, the Unix-based system. What is the idea of passwords in Unix-based system? What is the idea? Can somebody steal the password in Unix-based system? Is it even possible? The very idea of stealing password. Technically. Yes, study. No worries. Bob Morris. Okay. ETC password file. etc password file is a starting place for anybody who thinks he should become a big hacker and all. The childish pranks will start from there. etc password file, where all the password things are supposed to be stored. I think I've studied, if you are seriously studying Unix-based systems, from a systems perspective, you know how passwords are stored. How is password stored in Unix-based system? See, when you enter a password, what really happens is, there is a one-way encryption which happens. One-way encryption is happening. Then, the encrypted password, a part of it is rejected forever. What remains is stored in etc password. Are you getting the point? So there is a password, we are encrypting it, and then you break a part of it, and the remaining chunk you are saving in password file. So even if password for somebody gets hold of password file and tries to decrypt the password, then he won't get the full password. There is no way he can get a full password. There is no full password stored at all. So the password match happens in a similar fashion. So when some user enters the password, that password is taken, encrypted, part of it is broken, and then compare. So the point is, no way we are saving the password. So where does this idea of stealing password come? That's not there in the dictionary. This encryption, this way of storing passwords was given by a professor called Bob Morris. You see in all encryption there is Alice and Bob. Alice and Bob, you see anything to do with security, there is Alice Bob, Alice Bob. You have not studied security there. Network security and all. There are so many subjects. Alice Bob, and Bob is Bob Morris. Alice is Alice in my favorite character. This is Bob Morris. Bob Morris has a very special place in the history of computing because his son, Robert Morris, you may remember his name, Robert Morris. No. He became notorious after 20 years for spreading the first internet worm. He was prosecuted and other things. Robert Morris, his father, Bob Morris, he gave this mechanism of saving passwords in Unix. See how strangely things are getting connected. So the first myth that hackers steal password is meaningless. No, there is nothing called as password and it cannot be stolen and all. Second myth which people have, what do they have? Tell me some myths so that they can play. Myths that people say that, okay, hackers are not, what should I say, they are not good in writing, they hate documentation, they don't write, they are more people who believe in doing things. I mean, we usually when we encounter, this is one more popular thing about within the students' mind, when they start their career here in programming and other things, if they fancy themselves to become hackers, is that they have to carry loads of attitude. Attitude is good. I don't say hackers should carry a bit of attitude, otherwise they will look very dull. Hackers should have attitude, but my only problem is that attitude should come with competence. There should be competence and then you have attitude, it looks good. If you don't have competence and have only attitude, it's not done. So one of the attitude which people usually carry, fancying themselves to be hackers, is that they'll say, if you tell them to write something or something, they'll say, no, we are hackers, we basically believe in doing things. This was taken to heights by our one guy who organizes FOSS.in. He is basic organizer of FOSS.in. He gave a slogan to FOSS.in from past 2 years, I guess. Show me the comment. You know what? It was an assault on the hacker principle, and he fancies himself to be a very big hacker and says, don't talk, show me the code and all that stuff. That is not right. If you see the history of hackers throughout, hackers are very good in reading great amount of literature, interpreting it and writing good literature themselves. One of the lessons it seems in MIT people used to give to the people who wanted to become hackers is that they would give some 600, 700 page book and say you read it. They would give it in the night and say can come tomorrow morning, let us discuss. So you should be a voracious reader and you should be able to communicate properly through words. But hackers don't communicate properly because they have problem with language. That is their problem. Language, especially the language like this, the common language has a problem. The syntax is not correct. And hackers by definition want everything to be perfect. The ultimate hacker is to create this perfect world where everything moves very perfectly, like how he sees his machine. World does not work like that, no. There is one very interesting story which I can share about hackers. This story is regarding one legendary hacker called as Gosper. This Greenback, Gosper and Nelson, these three guys who are under McAfee were called coolies of McAfee, working for McAfee. They built the hacker culture, and this story is regarding Gosper. Story Gosper's wife told. Hacker getting married itself is a phenomenon. So it's one kind of rarity in the hacker world. Hacker getting married. That's why Gosper is a special kind. Because he got married. No hackers get married. For various reasons. Various other reasons. Which man? Solpa Varsha Hinda. 2007, before 2007. Because after 2007 I have been a very different guy. The story or whatever I say is everything is before 2007. After 2007 I have started. We had a very active programming kind of scene here in MSRI. And usually I used to hang out with students. Whenever I used to work, there used to be some 5 students around me and happily doing our programming all the time. One of the guys in our group suddenly one day discovered. Suddenly he came to me and said, "So, why don't I have a girlfriend?" Yeah, it's a very interesting thing that you suddenly discover that you don't have a girlfriend. But I should get a girlfriend. I said, "You are asking a very wrong guy. You should ask someone else. How can I say that? Put it in our way." Ask someone. He did not agree. Then we said, "Okay, we'll do some study. Seriously, some study. Hege idella work out agutte, we study." Then he went back. He was a very serious programmer. I don't know whether there are serious programmers. There may be some few serious programmers who can qualify to become good programmers at the end of the day. But nowadays, since I am not in touch with students, I don't know. With those days, I was in touch with students who I knew. And we used to work together on many projects, so there was that kind of comfort level in talking. He went back and I remember very clearly that time our college fest was happening. Good time to do such things. So we started going out to such fairs and see what is happening actually outside. Because most of the times if you see, we were in our room doing our coding, our 10. Down in the underground floor. We used to be there doing our coding. We came out and started seeing what is happening in this fest thing and what people are doing. And he started noting down many things and seriously doing this study. And after some time there was this eureka moment. He came to me and said, "Sir, I found out what is this case." After some deep study. The research was like this. This is a true story. His research was that the highest probability to get a girlfriend is that the guy should be able to play the guitar. It was concluded. So he said there is 100% chance. If a guy is playing guitar, he will definitely have a girlfriend. So that's the conclusion. So I knew what is next. I asked him, "Okay, so when are you starting?" So in all earnest, he started the next day, and me and KG Srinivas, we had to go through all this ordeal of getting this guitar and trying to learn it. The lessons downloaded from internet, he seriously started learning guitar. And then he said, "I think I can now play something and also sing along." Okay, at least one student is trying something and let us support him. In one function, we gave him a chance. And go and sing now. Let's see what happens. He sang. I mean, I should not say he sang badly. He sang. project happened, but nothing happened.